Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first session of the day, Monday morning, get things going. What we're going to do this morning is a couple of panel sessions. The first one is on how you secure listings in stores, which most suppliers will be interested in. And the second one is on the kind of wider trends, the big trends in food and drink that are coming down the track for the next year or so. We have two different panels comprised of experts in those industries. I'm going to explain who those guys are. The programme says that we're going to do the two panel sessions and then the launch of these awards that we want to talk to you about. We're going to slightly change that, not because we need to talk to the awards first, but just because it doesn't make sense for me to stand and tell you these guys. So at this show we're officially launching the Scottish Retail Food and Drink Awards, which is basically a sort of unique new celebration of Scottish food and drink. The whole point of these awards is to get more Scottish food and drink onto more shelves in Scotland, and that's from farm shops and delis at one end right through to supermarkets, discounters at the other end. Helen and I have been involved in food and drink media, publishing events and things for about a lot of years, maybe 50 odd years between the two of us. But it just feels like a really good time because Scotland's a really good place in terms of the quality of its food and drink. It always has been. Everybody knows Scottish food and drink's the best in the world. That's a gimme. But there was nothing in the market we thought that really helped bridge that gap between big retailers, small retailers, and then the guys providing the food and drink. And at the minute, as you know, a lot of the stats in the world, and we'll hear some interesting stats about the consumers at the moment, provenance, local sourcing, all the things that come along with that, so quality. There's also a much greater interest in things like the green agenda, so food miles, all of that stuff. Consumers are all over that at the minute, but it still remains very hard for suppliers to get their products into the stores. And all of the Lidls and Aldis and Tesco's of this world, right down through convenience store chains. Convenience stores are a very big market. I think it often gets overlooked by smaller suppliers. They always think first of the big supermarkets and things, but they're very hard to get into for reasons that we're going to discuss, because there's big volumes and a lot of the complexity of the deals can be quite difficult. So it's for very small suppliers it can be really hard. But there's a big chunk, there's 5,000 or so convenience stores in Scotland, depending on what you call a convenience store. But traditionally it used to be 3,000 square feet was the rule, but these days that's changed. Convenience stores tend to be a bit bigger than that. But you'll find them in every village, town, city in Scotland, so there's a lot of them. And often with those guys, you can't talk to an individual store and they will take your product on a single store basis, which can be really helpful because then you're not having to the logistics of trying to deliver to wholesale outlets and carry on that goes with that. So the whole point of the awards is to kind of bring you guys together. The entries will be open in the next week or so online, and the judging will happen two different places. One is at the Glasgow Caledonian University. They have their professional kitchens and their whole team is going to be involved. It will take us about a week and a half of judging, and it's a very intense process. Should you be interested in that at any point, you're absolutely welcome to come along and view it. The core of these awards is the fact that the products are judged properly and they'll be judged by a very serious panel. We have about 60 judges because it takes so long. And every product, should it be required, is cooked according to the on-pack specifications, etc. And every single product that is entered gets the same time and energy from that panel. Everybody that enters also gets the benefit of the feedback, so that every single product will get feedback from that panel to see what they liked about it, maybe if there was room for improvements in various areas. Because of the nature of the awards, what we're trying to do is we're not handing out awards just so you can say that nice. We're handing out awards so that will help you get listings, so that you can go on, grow your sales. It's all very commercially driven. So the feedback you get from these guys will be across everything. And while there are some other awards around, and that's all fantastic, we hope to complement them, certainly not compete with them. The judging criteria is slightly broader than you, so having a really good quality product is critical, because without that there is nothing else. But the judging criteria, because we're talking in this practical, real commercial world here, will be on things like the packaging. Does it look, if you've got a lovely craft gin, does it stand out on shelf? What could you do? So it goes right across, so including the sustainability criteria, packaging, everything that goes around it, so it's slightly wider than just is this a fantastic product, because in today's hyper-competitive market, you need to have a great product, but you also need to present it to the world in the right way, and to get buyers to take that product. There are certain areas that you're going to have to get absolutely perfect, and hopefully this morning with this panel you'll learn a bit more about what it is that retailers are looking for when they're buying products. So all of the food bit happens in there, the drinks bit will happen in the Liquid Academy. If you're in the drinks industry you may know that. It's a training academy in Scotland that trains bartenders and other people involved in the alcohol industry. So all the alcohol section will be judged in there. Again, it's exactly the same scenario. It'll all be videoed, it'll all be very transparent. You can come and watch it happening to make sure there's no people choosing their friends over anyone else or anything like that. And then there will be a big awards ceremony in Edinburgh in October, so we'll get in touch with you about that later. And it should be a fantastic evening. And when the winners win, they have their little logo you can put on pack, and we know that putting awards logos on pack increases sales. That's just a fact. Most of the time consumers don't understand the reward, they don't understand what it means. You see a little IWSC or Great Taste or whatever, they don't really know anything about it, but they know if there's two products sitting together and that one's got a badge roughly the same price, but they'll go for that one. So we've also got some stats that you get today about that. So that's the rewards. I don't want to talk too much about it, but we're over on stand, you should know this, what stand are we over on?
Q43.
Q43.
One of the small things really important about rewards, of course, is own labels. I think the guys are going to share some stats today about the growth in own label, particularly premium own label. And that's another really, really important part of the Scottish Retail Food and Drink Awards, that we really are celebrating some of the excellent work that the supermarkets are doing on their own label ranges in Scotland. So that's another crucial aspect of the awards, and we're talking about this whole, from the largest supermarket who do phenomenal work on their own label ranges, right through to the smallest producers who are looking for listings for supermarkets and in, or even just to get recognition, having an award-winning product is a good independent endorsement of the quality of your product, judged by a panel of experts who you're going to be meeting.
Yes, so that's enough of the sales pitch. If you want to find out about it, you can go over to the stand and we'll give you some bits and bobs. That we do have a full launch session here planned for later on, but if you want to stay for that, we can talk you through it. If you have any questions, that's great. But at least now you get half an idea why we're here and why you're standing in front of me. So I was going to work this morning, we're going to get a presentation, a brief presentation, basically research-based presentation on the state of the Scottish market, on the things that we're talking about, provenance, sustainability, all of these things, by our partners 56 Degrees Insight, who are based in Edinburgh. Used to be the Kantar office, so the senior directors at Kantar, and then Kantar pulled out of Scotland. These guys are still in there, still working very closely with Kantar, so some very good data that you'll hopefully find interesting. So Jim, the managing partner, Jim Nicholson's going to give us the first presentation for 15-20 minutes to give you an overview of what's important to consumers. Then we're going to pass over, and Helen, my colleague Helen Lyons, is going to chair the session that follows that, and we'll get these guys to introduce themselves, but I'll give you a quick overview. So on the far end here, Bruce Langlands, a good Scot, who, among other things, was the director of food at Harrods and then Selfridges, and last year left and has now got an exciting new role lined up, but he won't tell us what it is. Next to Bruce we have Jane Melton, who is a food industry expert. She will tell you a bit about herself, but she's basically internationally renowned and does an awful lot of, spends most of her time in Turkey at the minute. Tunisia, close. Then we have Stephen Brown, who is, he's now actually head of Food to Go at CJ Lang, which is a company that is the Spar Scotland wholesaler, so they manage all of the Spar stores in Scotland. But Stephen's big expertise, the reason why he's here today is he's been in local sourcing for a number of companies, David Sands a long time ago, ScotMed, and he's now Spar Scotland, but he wouldn't tell me how many years, but it's a lot. So Steve's going to do that and tell us a bit about that. And then the idea is really, rather than those guys just talking at you, what we're trying to get to is when Harrods are looking at something, what they're looking for, because it's probably not, we've done it with Bruce last night, so what Harrods is looking for is probably not what you think it is. That surprised me last night because you have, what's that? And quality sits at the heart of it, but there's an awful lot of other things that they're looking for. Then Jane's going to talk to us about what you need to do to your product. Having dealt with a million suppliers and a million retailers, she's going to tell you what sorts of things that those guys are looking for when they're looking at all stuff. And then Stephen is going to be talking to you from the sort of smaller convenience store end of the market, and those guys are looking what sorts of volumes they're looking for, what sorts of margins, what sorts of packaging, how does the logistics work, all this kind of thing. So they'll give you an overview of them. The whole point of being here is you don't get these guys in the same room very often, so if you've got some questions, please feel free. There are, Bruce pointed out to me last night, make sure you make it clear, there are no stupid questions. Don't be embarrassed about asking what might appear to be daft questions in front of your industry colleagues. Any questions you've got at all, this is a free consultancy for a while from guys that you would find otherwise very hard to get in front of. So I'll just hand it over to Helen, and do you want to get the guys to introduce themselves, and I shall...
Do you want to say a few words before we kick off, Bruce?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I don't normally need a microphone, or not. Good morning, everybody. I'm Bruce Langlands. I'm the former main board director of Harrods, looking after 26 restaurants there in the famous food halls. Then I moved on to Selfridges, where I looked after 38 restaurants in the food halls across 4 stores. Prior to that, after leaving school in Edinburgh, I was a young management trainee and did 17.5 years in Marks & Spencer, specifically in the food group. And before joining Harrods, I was the board director of food innovation and food safety for Superquinn in Ireland, which is now part of the Musgrave Group.
Hi, I'm Jane Milton. I also currently need a microphone, but I've caught a cold from a client last week, which I'm eternally grateful to them for coming from Switzerland to give me, but so I think I maybe mentioned use it today. I have been 34 years, I think, in the food industry. I'm 20-something of those running my own consultancy, working with food and drink producers, helping them to work out how they will get growth in their business. So you've got one good product and you're just at the beginning, what would your next product be? Or what do you do when the whole world decides to go sugar-free and you make jam? Or, you know, if you're outside the UK and wanting to supply into the UK, who would be the best person for you to supply to? How you would make the most money, which is what concerns me. And what changes do you need to make to your product? So that's very much the sort of thing I do, and I work right across retail. So I'm working with producers or with people who are trying to find contract manufacturers on that side of things.
Thanks, Jane. Oh. You working?
Hi, Stephen Brown here. I have been involved in the food industry for a long time. I started off at the age of probably 2 or 3, cutting lettuce for my grandfather in his greengrocer's shop at a place called Mrs. Webster's in Crossgates, a long time ago, he says. And over the years I've worked in various industries, from greengrocery. I had my own greengrocery shop, delicatessens and fish shop at one time. I then went to work for John Menzies, and then I was asked to work for David Sands in Kinross, which at that time David Sands had about 7 or 8 shops. We grew that estate to 30 shops. We were a very successful and quite unique independent retailer in some respects, with their own transport and distribution as well as the shops, so we did a lot of stuff there. When the Sands sold to the Co-op Group, I was asked by Scotland to go and work for them, and I worked for them for just over 7 years, bringing innovation and food to go. The food to go that you see in Scotland now was all part of a drive to try and differentiate what they were currently doing. And as well as that, we had the challenge, and I'll talk about it later on, between differentiating what the Co-op Group nationally did, as well as what Scotland wanted to do. Scotland very, very proud of their heritage and their Scottish roots. From there, my boss left Scotland and he asked me to go work for CJ Lang. I work for Spar in Scotland. We have 110 company stores and service just over 235 independent sites at the moment. Very much in the convenience sector. But again, we're back at slightly similar to David Sands, and now we have our own transport, our own warehouse, our own distribution, our own lorries and our own route to market. And clearly we're we work under the SPAR umbrella, which doesn't just cover Scotland, it can cover the UK and nationally. So people think of the corner shop as just being a corner shop, but no, it goes right across the world, and we've got contacts right the way through. So looking forward to this morning, that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. Well, we've got some incredible experience on our panel this morning, but I'm really looking forward to hearing what you're going to say later on. Firstly, I'm going to introduce Jim Duncan to the stage, who's going to talk us through some research that they've recently done on our behalf for our launch. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen, and thank you everybody for your time this morning. And I would like to thank both you and Anthony for we feel it's a real privilege to be asked to be the research and insight partner for these exciting awards. Such an exciting industry, such a dynamic industry, and one that we're both very, very excited about. As I think Anthony mentioned, Duncan and I are both ex-Kantar. Kantar, we were senior directors of the Kantar office in Edinburgh. The company decided to close that office last year. We decided to do our own thing. So we don't just, our new company our experience is not just based in the last year, so it's based on about 20 odd years, too many years experience working across lots of industries, including the food and drink industry. So I'm going to set the scene for our discussion this morning around how you get listings. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on that. What I will try and do is give you a flavour for the trends, the things that are mattering to consumers in the food and drink space in Scotland this year and going forward. We'll begin by looking at the big picture. We'll look at what sets Scotland apart. Some interesting new statistics on the types of diets that people are following. We've segmented the Scottish population into different types of food interest. And then we'll look at some of what we see 5 headline trends, as well as lots of other ones. It's really hard actually focusing on what these 5 key trends were. So quite happy to be shot down if someone disagree with those. So let's start with the big numbers. Quite simply, however we look at it, the food and drink sector is extremely important to the Scottish economy. A massive number, £14 billion contribution each year, which places it as a key growth sector in the Scottish Government's economic strategy. And it supports almost 19,000 businesses and 115,000 plus employed. So however we cut it, the industry is massive. And it is very distinctive in Scotland. There's some elements of the Scottish market that are different from elsewhere in the UK. Firstly, the nature of our shopping habits. Now, we all spend, on average, it's just an average number, these are Kantar figures, it's just over £4,000 a year on groceries. Now, that's about the same as what it is down south, but the way in which we spend our money is slightly differently. We take more shopping trips per year, an extra 30 or so than the average in the UK, almost 300 a year, and that reflects the nature of the Scottish marketplace. We've got it's harder to do all your shop in certain parts of Scotland in one trip, for example, as we all know. So we tend to spend less on each individual shopping trip, but it all amounts to the same amount at the end of the year. The Kantar data also shows that where Scots shop is changing as well. The discounters are making their mark, and Aldi and Lidl both are outperforming the wider market. Collectively, they gained around 1% market share in the last 12 months, and that's about £125 million through the tills. And with more stores opening, this rise looks set to continue. And of course, SPAR and others are part of that whole debate. We also find that Scottish consumers have been typically a bit more loyal to brands, and Helen touched on this, than is the case elsewhere in the UK. Probably as much a reflection of the great proportion of older shoppers in Scotland who traditionally go back to the Heinz, the Warburtons and so on. This remains the case, but there is undoubtedly a move towards more own label. Now, not necessarily discount own label, but the quality premium own label, and that's where there's a huge opportunity for all of us. The fastest growing own label tier in Scotland is basically the premium ranges. So, I said that we'd undertaken some research on diets. What sorts of, how do we segment the Scottish population in terms of their food interests? Our dietary considerations are changing. It's adding a further dimension and contribution to food consumers, consideration to food consumers. So first of all, this was research we undertook amongst a representative sample of the Scottish population back in November, and around about 13% of Scots, which equates to around about 500,000 adults, are vegetarian. More likely to be younger, more likely to be ABC1, so the higher socioeconomic groups, and slightly more likely to be females, but it goes across the board, as you can imagine. I'll put all the other ones up at once. Dairy-free, 6%, so around about 250,000 are following dairy-free diets. Gluten-free, 4%. Pescatarian, 2%. So much, much smaller percentages, but still large numbers of people. But this is Veganuary, so let's focus on the vegan proportion at 4%. Seems very small, doesn't it? We'll come on to that in a second, because obviously we would argue that last year was the year that plant eats healthier, but also ethical and environmental considerations, possibly a way to solve the food crisis that could be ahead of us. And one interesting stat that we did find when we were researching all of this is that in 2018, the term vegan appeared in 1,000 books and Watersons. By the end of last year, it was in 10,000 books. So there has been an explosion. And big brands are getting in on the act. You can't walk down the high street, you can't walk past all these fast food joints at the moment without seeing something about Veganuary and vegan options. Obviously, Greggs were probably the forerunners in this a year or so ago with the vegan sausage roll. And then, of course, this month for Veganuary, they've launched the vegan steak bake. Huge publicity around it as well. And actually, it's quite nice. I've tried it. It's really quite nice. KFC with their Imposter Burger, their vegan burger. Burger King with their vegan Rebel Whopper. And Pizza Hut's Pepper Phony. I'm not sure that's such a good name. It suggests that it's not quite right. And Caffè Nero, Costa Coffee, they're all getting on the act. And the supermarkets as well. I mean, last year Tesco launched a major vegan range in the third quarter. 40 plant-based lines in around about 450 stores across the UK. And importantly, and this is the key point about becoming mainstream, they weren't hidden away in another part of the store. They were amongst all the meat products in the same aisles to encourage more people to see and try them. So there's lots of momentum behind veganism. Well, why is it only 4%? Well, we would argue this is where the whole flexitarian issue comes in. 4% of people are vegan and they're always vegan, but more and more people are willing to try different non-meat products. Indeed, 20% of the population eat plant-based food on a weekly basis and 24% want to do it more often. And actually there's an interesting fact at the bottom that 86% of the plant-based meals are eaten by non-vegans. So that's something for you to think about. So we segmented the population around food interests because increasing interest in food and drink is undoubtedly happening. People are wanting to talk about it. There's lots of shows on television. There's lots of opportunities to talk and get enthusiastic about food and drink. So we, again, in that same survey, we segmented the population according to different levels of interest in food. First one, cooking lovers. 6 in 10 Scots love to cook. 2.1 million Scottish adults. Now, the other side of that, we do have some cooking avoiders, but that's only 12%. More likely to be older or very much younger or male. But, you know, again, cooking lovers, people want to cook nowadays, and that's so important. Who wants to go food shopping? Well, actually, 3 in 10 really enjoy food shopping, especially those who maybe have these special diets that require a bit more care and attention, if you like. But 3 in 10 of us love going food shopping. I'll put the last two up at the same time because they appear opposites. Limited taste versus adventurous taste. Both account for around about 40% of the population, 4 in 10. So limited taste, they really enjoy food but stick to what they know and the same recipes and ingredients. Adventurous taste group are people who like to try food ingredients and new recipes. But these two groups are not necessarily mutually exclusive, especially when we look at people who are vegans or have a gluten-free diet. They fall into both camps. They like the idea of trying new food, ingredients and recipes, but tend to stick to what they know. And this maybe underlines an opportunity for retailers to expand the variety of choices for these types of people, because we are talking large numbers, 4 and 10. A few more, four more segments that we identified. The TV food fans, 36% of Scots like following food programmes on television, be that MasterChef or some of the competition-based ones, or more standard traditional recipe programmes, Great British Bake Off and so on. It's 36% of TV food fans, and that's really important because that is often a way, we know from other research, where new foods and recipes on TV can have a positive impact on future trends. And 1 in 10 Scots claim to be real foodies, their words. I'm a foodie, somebody who really cares about food. So that obviously is serious foodies is a big opportunity. And of course, tied to that, you've also got the food knowledgeables, so people who know about ingredients, know about food, and consider themselves knowledgeable in that sort of area. That accounts for 21%. And importantly, as we'll come on to in a second, the importance of provenance. Provenance seekers, a quarter of the Scottish population, actively seeking foodstuffs that are locally sourced and grown and produced with a clear backstory. Right, that's enough facts and figures. Let's look at what we see as the 5 key trends. And I say we're willing to be shot down in those. There'll be other trends, and actually we've got a few more we'll cover just after this. But we did want to share these as what Duncan and I see as 5 of the key trends that are impacting on the Scottish food and drink industry. Health and well-being, we'll look at that in a second. Sustainability in the environment, provenance, Scottishness. I'm not sure if Scottishness is a word, so I put it in inverted commas, but we started using it anyway. And coincidentally for today, awards and accreditation. So we'll go through each of these in turn very briefly. Health and well-being. The search for the healthier option has become much more prevalent in recent years and continues to evolve. And Kantar research shows that 73% of Scots wish to live a healthier lifestyle. So healthiness is very, very important. And as a result, consumers are becoming increasingly likely to pay attention to ingredients, not just calorific content, but also artificial flavourings, sugar, unsaturated fat, and so on. And our recent research showed that 62% of Scots actively avoid unhealthy options when food shopping. This is often referred to as the less and more trend. Less sugar and salt, more nutritious ingredients, especially high fibre and so on. So brands need to appeal to those searching for that healthier lifestyle. And this extends to our drinking habits too. We know from Kantar that Scots are drinking less in recent years. Yes, it's true, we are. The recent minimum unit pricing legislation has had a role to play in that, obviously. But also people are looking for higher quality. I mean, we've already been a mention of Scottish craft gins, for example. People are willing to spend a little bit more for something that's a little bit different, a little bit better. And there's only so much money you can spend, so they tend to be spending for lower volumes and higher quality. And actually, this is in contrary to south of the border, where we're paying approximately £1 more per litre than counterparts elsewhere in Britain because of minimum unit pricing. And reflecting the move to greater health consciousness, the non-alcoholic and low-alcohol sector continues to grow at a faster rate in Scotland than elsewhere. A growing proportion of the population are looking to moderate their drinking habits. For many, this is dry January, for example, and that goes across the country, obviously. For me, it's January, but that's another matter. And in the run-up to Christmas, sparkling wine sales were down 8%, and Brewdog opened its first alcohol-free pub. Yes, in London just 2 weeks ago. So health and well-being is becoming increasingly important. Now, last year was a pivotal year, I would argue, when it comes to the environmental issues. Obviously, we've all seen the images of Greta Thunberg and the whole climate emergency debate, and the devastating pictures of the Australian fires over the last month or so in Australia. And people are much more aware of what's happening in our environment and that they need to do something about it. And this comes through in our everyday food and drink considerations. Brands have therefore got to find a way to address these sorts of concerns. So when it comes to packaging, many brands are addressing the need for it by being more recyclable and reducing plastic use generally, with use of biodegradable film, for example. And Highland Spring have developed their Eco Bottle recently, which has added recycled plastic to their bottles, and a big commitment to recycling. But retailers are also playing their part. Many are looking at plastic-free fruit and vegetable aisles and offering paper bags instead of plastic. And food waste is an increasing concern as well. And brands like Aldi are making donations to food banks, and Morrison's and Nisa have both signed up with the Too Good To Go app, which redistributes unsold food. And all of this is important to Scots consumers. That's the other important point. 63% of Scots in our survey are more likely to choose products which have minimal packaging and that is recyclable. So very, very important to bear that in mind when it comes to your own products. And of course, we've got government intervention again with the deposit return scheme that is proposed, and we've done some initial research with Zero Waste Scotland on that whole issue, which does suggest a general level of support amongst consumers for the whole idea behind the DRS. But obviously the proof will be in the pudding and making it as easy as possible for both consumers and retailers, and I know a lot of work is being done in that area at the moment, and that's an area that 56 Degree Insight will continue to monitor through our consumer research throughout the year. Provenance. The issues of sustainability feed into this whole area as well. Pardon the pun, feed into it, but never mind. If we can reduce the number of food miles and source more of our food and drink locally, that can only be a good thing. And of course, this whole area represents a huge opportunity for food and drink producers in Scotland to target the local markets. It's about trusting the producers, believing in their integrity when it comes to the claims that they're making. It's about authenticity, it's about quality, it's about a complete transparency around where the foods were grown, reared or caught, all becoming increasingly important. In our recent research, 57% of Scots wanted to reduce the amount of food miles in their product choices, and a similar proportion, 56%, like to go out of their way to seek products with a clear provenance. So very, very, very important. And embracing locally sourced seasonal products and items with a clear story behind them is very important to Scots consumers. And this has been helped by the big consumers. I mean, the likes of Aldi and Lidl again have been at the forefront in stocking locally grown fruit and veg and meat products in the last few years, and against what some of the bigger supermarkets were certainly doing, and they've definitely helped the whole industry as a result. In that story, and telling the story of the product and the brand can be extremely effective, and a lot of the Scottish craft gin producers have used this approach effectively to draw consumers in, giving them the story about where the gins come from, what its backstory is, and so on. Develops an interest and an intrigue which often captures consumers. Now, I mean, one which isn't really a provenance story because it's White and Mackay and it's a London Dry gin, but they've recently launched Wildcat Gin, and the story behind that one is undoubtedly proving to be quite a successful way of getting people in. Don't know how many of you are aware of it, but it dates back to the 18th century when a Captain Dudley Bradstreet arrived in London and plotted to secretly sell gin during the period of Prohibition. He hung a black cat sign over the window to let people know that by knocking 3 times, gin would be dispensed once money had been placed in the cat's paw, which was just under the crack of the door. Cat signs then started to appear around London. Now, White and Mackay have used this story to create this gin, Wildcat Gin, and very cleverly on the bottle they've embossed not once, not twice, not thrice. So again, it just you notice that, you ask the question, you wonder what it's about, maybe as opposed to another gin where it's less obvious what the story is. So that's important. And we know that in the food industry generally, the family heritage story is very important. In Scotland, we've got several brands where that's always been there: Walker's Shortbread, Baxter's, and so on. So provenance is very, very important. But let's turn to something which we feel is important, probably to everybody in this room: the rise of what we have called Scottishness. All of the trends we have highlighted generally so far are interrelated, and this one builds on the broader consumer demand to know more about where your food comes from. So why is Scottishness important? Well, national identity has always been important to Scots. The 2011 census, there's another one next year, but 2011 census, the last one, 62% of Scots defined themselves as Scottish only. not Scottish and British, but Scottish only. So there is a feeling of being Scottish and being different and being very clearly seen as being Scottish. Now, I'm not being political by saying any of this, I may add. This is just how people feel. And we wanted to explore the extent to which that was also the case among food products. Many of you'll remember in 2016, Tesco took the decision to change the branding of their strawberries and replace the Scottish saltire in the packaging with the Union flag. 3 years on, we decided to find out how Scots felt about how their products were branded in stores. And asked them if everything else was equal, if you saw one product that said 100% British with a Union flag and another product that said 100% Scottish with a St Andrews flag, which would you be more likely to buy? And figures are there. 56% would prefer the Scottish option, 4% would prefer British, and a large proportion in the middle. But again, it just illustrates the importance and the good feeling around Scottishness. Now, if we did this research in Yorkshire, I'm sure if it said Yorkshire, it would be similar. But so it's very much a provenance issue in many ways, but it's something that's really important for everybody in this room to bear in mind. We're keen to look at the next level down and see the extent to which the regionality of Scotland is important when it comes to food choices, and we'll be looking at over the next few months in our role with the awards scheme. Which brings us nicely on to accreditation and awards. This one's especially relevant this morning, obviously. We live in a world where we are bombarded with choices in every aspect of our life, be it choosing holidays, be it choosing books, whatever it is. There are lots and lots of choices open to us, and we get lots of help from other people through the Consumers Association will rank different types of products in different ways. We've got TripAdvisor ranking our accommodation and so on. And when it comes to food choices, it's just as important. It makes a difference. It definitely does. Anthony mentioned this at the beginning, and we did research which suggested that 44% of Scots claimed that some form of accreditation or award on a label would make them more likely to buy, more interested. Now, I've got one quick anecdote. I was in Belfast last week on business, coming through duty free. I fancied a Belfast gin. I like getting gins from wherever I visit. And there was a huge selection on offer actually. Some I'd heard of, other new ones on the market. The one I eventually went for was Titanic gin. They were all much the same price. The reason I chose it, quite like the idea and the story behind it, but there was a little label on it saying that it got a silver award in the 2019 World Gin Awards. I thought, well, that made the difference for me. I could have easily chosen another one. Maybe next time I go back I will, but that was my choice this time. So awards are really, really important. And existing customers will feel assured if they see an award on their packaging, and it might be an opportunity for new customers to try it. There's lots of other trends going on, and I'm not going to spend any time on those, but I felt it was important we should at least acknowledge them here. The growth of out-of-home food purchasing is really important. Out-of-home in Scotland is growing at twice the rate of take-home groceries. Much of that growth is in snacking, eating on the go, and of course coffee. And there's lots of opportunities out there in that particular area. Convenience, apps on your phone, being able to actually buy things through technology, whether that's Deliveroo or some of the other aggregate apps or whatever, or individual apps for stores and for products. And I've got several on my phone for individual products that I order directly from the producer, because I can do that. I never had that choice before. Discounter growth we've talked about already, so I won't spend any more time on that one. Brands versus own labels we've talked about. Scots still do tend to buy brands more than elsewhere in the UK, and the main brands, the top 5 brands purchased in Scotland are Warburton's, Heinz, McVitie's, Coca-Cola and Hovis. And Scottish brands, Graham's Family Dairy, McClelland, Bell's, AG Bar and Tonics. The social side of eating is important. Foodstagramming, I hate that word, but it seems to be gaining some sort of traction, and I've just added to it today, I guess. A recent survey found that half of adults learn about food on Instagram. It's quite scary, but given how relatively new technology that is. and repeated posts promote certain foods. And we're also finding that some food manufacturers are making their projects more photogenic to help. So think about, another gin example, coloured gins, for example. And then finally, shared occasions. Lots of opportunities around eating occasions for yourselves, with your families, with friends, and so on. Burns Night's coming up at the end of this week, but obviously we've got Christmas, New Year. And we did some research end of last year looking at St Andrew's Day, and we feel there's a huge opportunity here for food producers in Scotland around St Andrew's Day. 21% of Scots did something on the 30th of November to mark the occasion, and most of that was spent around food. So 43% had a special meal at home, 17% went out for meals, 17% went out for a drink, 10% posted they attended a party. A lot of food-related things, and we found that amongst some of these segments we saw earlier, people who consider themselves a foodie, like to try new food and going to new recipes, the percentages were even higher. So there's a real opportunity around St Andrew's Day. It kind of falls at that really awkward time between Halloween, just before Christmas and New Year and so on, but potentially, Thanksgiving in the States does as well. Could we almost make it more of a food occasion for us as Scots and Scottish families? And there's a real opportunity out there for some producers. That's all I want to say. Just been a case of really scratching the surface, but hopefully it's given you a feel for what we think are the key things that are happening.
I think what we're going to do in terms of questions, if you don't mind, we'll wait to the very end and we'll do all of our questions that you might have. One of the first things I was going to say to you all was, what do you think the trends are going forward? I was going to ask you individually, but I think what I'm going to do first, we've had some amazing insights, obviously, from Jim through the presentation, so I think I'm going to move my question around a little bit, and what I'm going to ask you first is, bearing in mind these trends that you've shared with us today, I'm going to ask Jane first, what are the two most important things from a small producer's perspective that might be in the audience today, and how can they tap into that, the trend that we've spoken about? Do you think that's a good thing to start off with, Jane?
Yeah. Sorry. I think, and the both things that Jim's already mentioned, provenance and sustainability are probably two of the biggest opportunities. If you're looking across the board at all different products, obviously within your own product sector there might be something, within your own category there might be something else, but certainly those two across the board. Knowing where all your ingredients come from. Often I speak to people and they've got great stories about producers they're working with people to get them up to the same accreditation levels as them so that they can use them as suppliers and things. And often, because you know that, you don't think that either other people are interested in it, or you forget that you need to spell that out to people. And that is definitely something that people are very interested in. And so I think following up with your provenance, knowing the stories about where everything comes from and making sure that you explain that and pass that on. And that is often something bigger manufacturers can't do, because when they get further down the line and they're having to buy across the world to get ingredients, the same ingredients and the quantities they need at different times of year and things, they tend not to be always able to follow that through. So I think it's definitely something that you can do. And then on sustainability too, just to go back to that, it is a key part, and more you're seeing people making choices by what packaging is, how little packaging there is on something. I'm working a lot with businesses in Tunisia at the moment. Out there, nobody had ever mentioned plastic free to them, and because of the way their economy is structured, they cannot buy anything from any other country because money cannot cross the borders of Tunisia. So we can only deal with the packaging they've got, and it is so limiting. And I'm saying to them, if you want a retailer to swap out a product they've got for your product when you are a less well-known brand to them, you have to be offering them something different. And packaging is an easy win at the moment. The retailers all know what they want to do, but they haven't got those products in place on everything. And so if you can offer them something with well thought through packaging, a sustainable product, a product that is as local as it can be, then you'll certainly push the door open further than you would have before. Obviously your product's still got to be a good product too, and at the right price.
Thanks, Jane. Bruce, with your premium retailer hat on, what is it you're looking for when a small producer comes to you? What are the two things that really stand out for you?
Well, to be honest, we're going to have a bit of a trend here, because I don't think it matters if you're at the luxury end or at the lower end. The two key things for a small supplier is, the first one is provenance. If I sit at my desk in Harrods or Selfridges, genuinely, we will get about 25 products per week on our desk from new suppliers coming in, wanting to be part of the luxury end. And the first thing we look at this time is, what's the provenance of the product? And it's the thing that you've really got to take into account is, what is it that makes your product stand out from everybody else? And I just echo what Jane has said, you know, there is nothing better, we'll talk about this a little bit more about how you get a listing in some places, but there is nothing better than actually to bring that passion from the grower, the producer or whatever, and actually come and show exactly what the product is. But without, hands down, is about why is your product better than anywhere else, and you really need to do your homework there. So if you're bringing a preserve in to see a buyer, you need to understand exactly what your competitors are, who are your competitors, and what makes your product stand out, hands and feet above them. And then the buzzword, and it's been a buzzword for quite some time now, but it's a really political word now, and that is sustainability. Everybody's looking at it. From food waste, food miles, packaging, the ingredients that you're putting into your product, it is absolutely massive. And it's something that is just not going to go away, and nobody can shy away from that now. And I think a lot of people have kind of buried their head in the sand and said, that's something for later. It absolutely is not anything for later now. And just before I left Selfridges, the one thing we did was we removed all plastic from our own label products. We removed palm oil, and some people say, well, it's palm oil and it's sustainable palm oil. I don't think the consumer really understands what that is, so we removed palm oil from all of our products. And that is what the consumer is starting to look for. 5-10 years ago, people really wanted to understand beef and Scottish beef, and they wanted to know who the cow was, who the mother of the cow was, who the grandmother of the cow was, and it really went down to that provenance and sustainability part, and that's starting to happen across all other products now.
Stephen, what about you from a convenience store perspective? Is there something different that you're looking for when you're talking to producers who are going to come and put their product on your desk?
Yes and no. Yes, the sustainability and the localness and all that is absolutely key to where we would be. The consumer is looking for something different time and time again. What I would say is that the producers in the room, you're all probably quite small producers, and take that as a compliment, not as a negative, because actually you have the passion, you have the family story, you have the integrity and the history behind you. And if we can latch on to that in the convenience market, then it gives us something different. Because of your size, you're also able to move very quickly, and the trends that come along are coming along very, very quickly. This time last year, Greggs launched their vegan sausage roll. Nobody thought about having a vegan sausage roll 2 years ago, 16 months ago, 18 months ago. It happened in January, and they did a very, very clever thing, and there's a lot of people followed on the back of that. So as smaller producers, you can pick up on the trends that are there. So sugar-free February, what does that mean for you? Do you have a product that fits that, and can you really leverage the potential of that? Because these things are happening all of the time. There's always a different campaign, there's always something different. In terms of locality, and having dealt with both in Scotland and beyond, we brought in a local soft fruit supplier to our stores in the northeast. Now, you may think, well, what does that mean? Well, Castleton Soft Fruit was the name of the farm. The farm came in and supplied their stores directly. Now, of the 10 stores that were supplied by a direct and local supplier with a great provenance and great history and a great story to tell, we actually sold more strawberries and raspberries and blueberries in the 10 stores than we did in the other 180 stores. Now, it wasn't because the strawberries that were coming in through the national distribution sector weren't good. They were actually grown in the northeast of Scotland as well. But the story, the locality, the name, and the provenance family history was recognised very, very much in the independent sector and sorted by our consumers in that area. So you have something that's very important, and if you can work with your local convenience stores, and a lot of times there's lots more convenience stores in the area, then I think you've got the chance of really trying to grow something and develop something slightly better. So.
Thank you for that. That's really helpful. There's a few people in the audience today who are sort of really launching new products, and I think something that's really helpful is aspirational things. Have you got any stories that you can share, briefs, of small producers that you've worked with and they've gone on to bigger and better other things? Can you share any experiences
Sure.
that you've had?
I mean, one is probably the last product that, a Scottish product actually, that we launched in Selfridges, and I'm delighted to say it's now launched nationally. And it was a product from the Dreams Bakery, which I'm not sure you know, but it was actually on Dragon's Den, believe it or not.
So the what bakery?
The Dreams Bakery.
Right.
And basically it was nothing new, but it was incredibly new because they saw a gap in the marketplace where the consumer wanted a product that they could nibble on whilst having a drink. And rather than a popcorn or crisps or Pringles or whatever, they saw an opportunity to do some delicious products and actually line up a product with specific drinks. So this is fantastic with gin. This is fantastic with Sauvignon Blanc. This is one, and they've done a range. I think it's 5 or 6 different products. And we saw this. It came onto my desk, and I just thought, this is pure innovation. But it's actually not expensive, and it's exactly the thing that you can dual merchandise, in your savoury area, also within drinks, and at till points, whatever. So it ticks a lot of boxes. It's at a really, really keen price point. But actually, who doesn't want something that's different? And when you've got friends and whatever, you say, gosh, what's this? And it's a real talking point. So for me, that was something that was really innovative in an area which people could say, there's just so much going on in the kind of crisp and savoury markets. That was one of them. And I suppose another one, and it's not so much a smaller producer because it's Dalmore Whisky, so pretty big from White Mackay, but within Harrods, what we wanted to do from a pure luxury end was try and reinvent whisky. So whisky is one of the kind of key components that's been in this country for years and years and years. But what we did there was we really sat down and brainstormed with the experts and said, what could we do for a Harrods customer which could be very, very different and take a spin on current whisky. So what we did was, with them, we worked hand in hand to pull together a collection of products. So it ended up in 13 products, 13 bottles, all of different ages, and then, which were totally and utterly unique, have never been done before. And then the 13th bottle, when the person bought the package, they actually went up to the distillery and they produced the whisky themselves. So it was a completely unique offer. It was completely full of provenance. It was unique to them, and they felt they were part of it. You cannot go to any newspaper stand these days. You can't put any TV on without a food programme or something like that. So it's such of the moment, and I think for food producers, this time is such an exciting time, and we've been kind of waiting in the wings for this, and it's now here, and we've just got to capture it and grab it before back.
Stephen, in your experience with the CC Awards, any little experiences that you can share with any of the producers in this room here, that success stories, somebody's come to you and said, what do you think about this? It's a good case study for us.
A real Scottish product, chicken pakora. Somebody came along and said, look, we've got this fantastic chicken pakora, it's restaurant quality, it's made 100% chicken breast, it's made locally, we individually batch cook it, and we work with, we chill it, and we do all the things that we should do with it. And in actual fact, if I was to look at our ready meal section, it's the number one, it's classed in our ready meal category, it's the number one selling line, not just in Siege and Lang, but also in Scotland. It outsells every other ready meal that we have. Why? It's a great product. So from that point of view, yes, it is something there that's there. Another product that you might think, well, you're going to talk, we had them, but I'll explain what we tried to do with them. We worked very closely, and we still do, with a lot of the local bakers in the regions. And bakery is quite a parochial product. If you were brought up in Fife, you would know, Stevens the Bakers, or Fisher and Donaldson's, or Stewart's the Bakers, and it gets down to even to individuals town level. So we took a morning roll. You might think, morning roll? Well, it's just a lump of dough. Well, no. The morning roll is a handcrafted, specially selected, long mature product that is probably, the flours come from Hutchison's, the supplier in Corrie. It's the dough itself is proved for 24 hours in a local bakery, not a craft bakery, not a plant bakery. You have to get the distinction with that. We doubled the price of our morning rolls and quadrupled the sales. Simple as that. And it's a morning roll. It's something that we've all bought every single day, but we had to take it, we had to explain to our stores, look, this isn't just a normal product, this is a handcrafted. This product was made less than 6 hours ago. It's the freshest, it's not 6 hours ago, 6 minutes ago in some occasions. This is the freshest product you will have on your shelf. You know, it comes in every day, we sell it every day. If it doesn't sell, we take off the shelf so the customer gets this prime morning roll. So we took something that had been on the shelves for a long, long time and developed it. And what I'm trying to illustrate is that you can take something that you may have, it's just telling the story and getting the customer and getting the staff buying, and you suddenly get a huge amount of sales. You know, simple product. You would know what morning roll is, of course, and you probably don't know what a well-fired morning roll is, and you probably don't know what a, so I'm just illustrating that. I'll dig to it.
James, so from your perspective, you've worked with so many small producers, literally startups. Now, you've got a bunch of stuff that you can share with some of these guys here about success stories, how they get successful.
Actually, one of the ones that Bruce gave, the Drinks Bakery, is one of the ones that I was involved in working with as well. And a lot of that is his passion, his absolute passion and drive. And he was the person that was going out and speaking to people and trying to convince folk that, you have a range of biscuits that here with different drinks was difficult. Bars and restaurants wanted them in huge packets from them. And retailers, wanted them in different packs and things, and wherever he went to see, he seemed to have not quite the right version, but he listened to what people said and acted on that, and that's definitely why that has been a successful product. And a wee trip through Dragon's Den and a few million people watching you never does you any harm as long as you know your stuff. It's a difficult one. I mean, the Dragon's Den thing is something that folk often ask, should we do it? You should, if your business is quite young and you haven't got a lot to lose. You should also know that you will be with the dragons for an hour and a half to 2 hours. So although you see 4 minutes, you can make quite a lot of mistakes in 2 hours. And depending on the story, the narrative that the television programme wants to create about you, they've got plenty of footage. A lot of people now do it as much for the publicity that they'll get as they do for the money. That can rile the dragons, it can really annoy them. So, you're best to really think it through. Is it the right thing for you? Are you somebody that wants somebody else's? Because they're not, you can get the kind of money they can give you can get from a lot of people, but you're doing it for their inputs. I think if that's what you want to do, then you can do very well from doing Dragon's Den. And certainly the way they can open doors for people is unbelievable. I have gone to Selfridges once with a product when we'd had to rebrand and redesign the product, and I had to say to a buyer, I am going to bring you 4 or 5 products. I can't tell you what the name is, can't tell you what the packaging looks like, can't actually tell you what the price will be. But it's going to be a telly in 6 weeks, and I think you'll want it. And because of all of that, they were prepared to take the punt on it, and they got the product in, and it did very well for them. I mean, that you never ever would put yourself in that position with a buyer otherwise. So it definitely can help you, but you have to be prepared to listen and to go with the direction that the dragons can see for you, and the people that they've got connections with, and what they can help you with. One of the brands that I was thinking about when I was thinking about this over the last couple of days is Highland Game, the people that brought venison to Scotland. Engela and Christian are Danish, living in the UK, living up in Dundee area, and they saw that venison, a natural product in our country, just wasn't being sold properly to people. People didn't know how to use it, they didn't know how to cook with it, they really weren't that sure about it. And gradually, through informing people, working with restaurants and working with retailers, giving out great, simple recipes that weren't that dissimilar probably to what you were doing with other meat. We've won people over, and we know them from some awards that they've won as well. And they went on then, to supply naturally and to really explain venison to people. But if you're bringing something totally new in, you need to be able to invest in it and to do it slowly and carefully and explain to people what it is. And often the best place to start that is in independent stores where the staff have time to say to people, have you seen this? Do you know what this is? Do you know how to do it? And so don't always assume your bank manager will be really happy if you get a Tesco listing, but it probably won't do your bank balance as much good as getting into Spark or getting into somebody local that can get behind you and support you. So I would say don't shut the door on those local retailers.
Yeah, that's really helpful advice. Something that we chatted about last night, Bruce, was salsa. This isn't a scripted question, by the way, so I'm just going to ask you to shoot from the hip. Salsa, how important is that to small producers here from your perspective?
See, from a retailer's perspective, it's vitally important because you can kill them something. So the first thing you always want to do, and the things that you would always ask the question is, are you accredited? Do you have the right facilities? I would also say a right retailer, and sometimes going for a smaller retailer or whatever, can help you and support you in that. So there have been a number of instances where we have seen a product and the team have been really honest with it and said, well, we're not credible in that. We said, we really want this product. So we have got technical experts from their team where I've said, I need you to go out there and I need you to really work with them to get them to the stage where we need them to get that. But from my perspective, and I think it's speak from Harry's, Selfridges, whatever, it is absolutely vital.
Would you concur with that, Stephen?
Accreditation is very, very important. It was in any business that I worked with. Quite frankly, if you have SALSA or you have BRC or whatever, then it makes the job of listing you so much easier. We do have facilities where we can send out and do our own accreditation as such, but the ongoing cost of that becomes prohibitive, and obviously it becomes more of a challenge to do so. Like Bruce, we have worked with suppliers in the past and nursed them through the SALSA process, and in actual fact what it does is it reaffirms the supply processes, and it also is good to, it's good to have a working relationship with your EHOs and what have you. Don't frighten away. In fact, in my current role, I'll invite the EHOs in and actually ask them what they're looking for and what have you as well as that. But all the products that I source at the moment have all got accreditation, and as I say, it's extremely important. Now, I'll tell you the reason why, and I'll tell you in Scotland world, Scotland had a very, very good relationship with a particular butcher in Wishaw 20 years ago. And unfortunately, that particular butcher supplied one of the shops. Scotland had just taken over the sort of Bodygoods Cooperative Society, didn't recognise that the supplier was actually supplying the shop because it was just the way it was. They sliced roast beef on the slicing machine, and then they went and sliced chopped pork in the back of the slicing machine, and the result was there was 20 people killed in the old folks home, and that was a food outbreak. So since that point there, anything that had to come into anything that came into Scotland, and indeed that's been adopted by CGI, has to be signed off by one of the directors and has to have accreditation, because the business could go itself into lots of different difficulties without having a SALSA. Now, the particular butcher was an award-winning craft butcher. We had everything, publicity-wise, would have said he's got accreditation. It just so happened he didn't, and a mistake came along. Now, was it his fault? No, but when things happen, you need that accreditation, so that's an important thing.
I think that's really valuable feedback, thank you. Jane, I know you've helped some of your small producers to get through SALSA. Is it ever so difficult?
It's not difficult. It's one step up from your HACCP, which I'm sure most of you are working to anyway. It is just about having paperwork and making sure that you can show that you're doing stuff that I suspect most people are doing anyway. But it is about showing it. It's about mitigating risk as much as you can and making sure that you can show the process so that if there is a problem, you can show that you took every reasonable step. Because sometimes with the best all in the world, there can be a problem. But if you can show that you've done everything that you could possibly do, you've identified the risk, that you've trained your staff, that everybody is aware of the right procedures, and not just that they're doing them on the day of the audit, but that it's a habit, which is why they look for all those records. But also for retailers, it's often a condition of their insurance that they're dealing with people that have got that accreditation. So it's not them trying to be awkward, or it's just useful. And the great thing is, as a Scottish supplier supplying into Scotland, you can have SALSA. Businesses outside of the UK cannot have SALSA. If they're coming into the UK, they have to have ERC, and that is a big jump up, and often requires major modifications to premises and things to get it. So again, it's something that gives an advantage to local suppliers because you can get it, and it's not a difficult thing to do. It's a good thing for your business, and it will stand you in good stead for when you want to grow as well.
The next question I've written here is, Stephen, how seriously does CJ Lang take its commitment to sourcing the Scottish food product?
We currently have 200 local Scottish suppliers coming through our depot. As I indicated earlier on, yes, we have 300 stores that we service, but we do have our own distribution and our own network, so that makes things a little easier because we can bring product in and we can trial and we can work it through. To get the split right in terms of where that would be, we do a lot with BWS, Beers, Wines and Spirits. Again, the gin factor has been a big growth factor for us. We deal with all the local breweries to a certain extent. Some larger, some smaller. And we deal with quite a few fresh food suppliers. So yes, it is important to us. And to be honest, nobody's mentioned it. We're obviously all into Brexit because we've not mentioned Brexit. So the Brexit factor, the local product and local province and local route to market is going to become even more of interest to us. And I think from a personal point of view, I look at it and say we've got to support local suppliers and local producers. We are in the communities in which a lot of these businesses are operating, and it's great to be able to show that you're actually supporting the local bakery, the local farmer, the local milk producer, whatever, that you're putting something back into the economy. So it strategically is an importance, and morally and ethically it's an importance, and obviously we mentioned sustainability before, that's also important to us. So yes, it ticks all the boxes.
Okay, that's great. So I'm going to ask this question to Jane. What can securing a listing with a retailer do for business? It doesn't necessarily have to be a small business, a medium-sized business. What can it actually do for a business when they get and secure that all-important listing?
If it's your first listing, it's really important. And one of the things that I always say to people is, do mock-ups, have mock-ups of your product, kitchen samples, small batch factory samples. Do not produce your product in any volume until you have a listing. You are, one, losing shelf life from the minute you've done it. Even if it's a frozen product, you're losing shelf life. Two, if you go and see Stephen and he says, do you know, I would love that product, but I wish you didn't have that in it, and you've got a whole warehouse full of it, you lose the opportunity to be able to modify that product to suit the person you're selling it to. So first listings are very important because they allow you to start your production. They allow you to give your producer, if you're working with somebody else who's going to produce it for you, numbers which will then give you the best price that you can get. If it's your second product, it can put you in more solid ground, if it's your second listing, so you're not just dependent on the whim of one person, and you don't have all your eggs in one basket, so you can broaden out, and also you're raising your brand profile. By the time you get onto a third listing, then all of that is taking shape, your brand is growing, it's developing, you're not reliant on one person, because something can happen to that one business that you're supplying. You could be like, no customers at all. So it's good just to spread, and also with volume, comes a more competitive price, it probably gives you a better margin, it allows you to put more money back into marketing that product. So getting listings is vital, because you can be selling on your own in markets, you can be selling on your own online and things, but having a presence, having a listing and getting a commitment from somebody to order from you regularly and to grow your business with you is very useful.
What about you, that question, Bruce? Have you got anything more to add to that?
What I would say is to get a listing in a store, the key things that I would do is, as I said at the start, a good buyer in a Selfridges or Harrods would have 25 products that are coming across their desk per week. You've really got to send that into them in a finished format, in a way that people really understand why it stands out amongst the rest of other products. And actually be a bit of a terrier. You know, there is nothing better than getting some time in front of the bar so you can talk through the product and they can see the passion of it. And sometimes when people have been a bit of fun, and I hate saying it's like here in the arse, and think, God, but actually it's the best way. And you will never sell your product via an email and send me a sample. Very rarely will you do that unless it's something that's really, really unusual. Make time to go in. The one thing I would say is retailers and producers or suppliers, and I keep saying this to all my teams, we're a team. I can't do my job without you. If you don't give me the product, I've got nothing to sell. And never ever go in thinking you're doing a retailer a bit of a favour or they're doing you a favour. This is absolutely 50-50. And the amount of times I've seen products fail because people are so excited about the product. And as producers, you get so into it. It's an amazing product, I've got all my life into it, so I'm working to this and whatever. You've got to go in knowing how much money you've got to make to break even. And don't sell yourself. I've seen it so many times. And as a retailer, there's nothing more crushing than seeing a product not be successful. You want every product to be successful. They'll not all be successful, let's be realistic. But you need to go in there knowing I need to make X% margin. And go in with 5 or 10% points ahead of where you really need to be, because a good buyer will negotiate, and they'll negotiate really, really hard. So if you need to make 40% margin, you go and say you need to make 50%. But never ever go below that, because you are on hiding to nothing. When you get your listing, the key thing for me is you get into the store and you sample it. If you spend half a day in any store sampling your product, speaking to the staff, which is absolutely vital, and it's been said before, but getting what is free customer feedback on your product. And some people will come up to you, and I've seen it, and they say, oh, I don't like that, and they get into fights about it. Don't just take the feedback, because not everybody will like it, but you will get some nuggets from that, which you would spend a fortune on trying to get. And the other thing with buyers, they will give you feedback. Don't take it personally. It's difficult when you've got a product and it's been your baby. Listen to what they're saying, because 9 times out of 10 they'll be right. And just to finish on it, it's not just the product that people are looking at, the packaging is equally important. And so many people put all the time and effort into the product, and then the packaging is not really, it's not up to scratch. When you're in a store where you've got 30,000 different products and you've got yours that you want to stand out, the packaging will help that. Likewise, don't spend all your time on the packaging and have a crap product. So you've got to have a packaging and product exactly the same.
Perfectly formed in every way. I think I'm just going to ask one more question.
We're going to mess up the format here. We were meant to have 2 sessions and they've kind of run over, but we're meant to have 3 sessions that have now kind of all become one. So there's one other guy I'd like to introduce up, because we're kind of on the right track and I don't want to sort of kill this also and get it. We haven't given it that much longer. There's a guy, Scott Gamel.
Hi, Scott.
Scott, can you come up and join us? You can sit there, I'll see you, stand up and go back. So, yeah, it's kind of all coming together. But we've got Scott along. So Scott runs Liquid Academy in Glasgow. Anybody know Scott? No, right, okay. Scott, we'll get him to introduce himself, but he's one of the best known guys in the drinks industry in Scotland, on trade and off trade, and runs a business in Glasgow that does an awful lot with suppliers, retailers, pubs, on-trade, off-trade, everything. So Scott, do you want to give us a wee 2 seconds on who you are for everybody? And then
Yeah, no problem. I suppose you could say we're successful all things liquid. Our mission statement is to help businesses, individuals from all walks of life redefine their relationship with drinks. That's it in a nutshell, really. Kind of hopefully got a finger in the pulse of soft drinks, alcohol, and creative, and a lot of work that goes in between that to create beautiful flavours for brands or develop menus for restaurants, bars, hotels, Republicans. So that's kind of where we sit.
yeah, cool. And well, we haven't confirmed it yet, but we're hoping to do the judging of the drinks, all of the drinks section in Scott's very trendy facility over in the West End of Glasgow. Helen, do you have any questions right now? Or just
There was, I was kind of coming towards a bit of a close on the questions.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask. So you did your presentation about all the trends was just fantastic, really interesting. I was going to have a sound bite from every one of you. Just what is the thing that you think is the trend for 2020? Or maybe even the next decade. What is it the thing that comes to your mind straight off?
The increase in flexitarianism.
Great. Stephen? Speed of innovation. This is great. Health? Yeah.
Alternative ingredients. So when I say that, I say if somebody's making pizza crust made from cauliflower or whatever, so it's looking at things in a more health, linked all into health and sustainability.
Cool. Thank you.
okay?
Start meeting my sex with the ABV and that sort of non-alcoholic soda.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. There's a few things that are obviously important and everybody can chip in. Is everybody happy in a few minutes just to... Right, so I'll ask the stupid questions instead of not stupid questions. So we'll start with an easy one. Scott, and I'm delighted here we've got a Scottish rum brand here. So the conversation's now been Miller. How long is gin going to last? How much longer is gin going to last? And is rum going to be the next big thing?
Well, we've been seeing rum's going to be the next big thing for a while. But it is a bit of a marvel as it reaches the top shelf. It's almost whiskey-like in its character, which is good, and it's great to see the supply chain mature in the rum sector. I think the gin bubble will burst. I don't think the consumer bubble will burst. I think it will at some level for the trade as it just sort of narrows itself. When you look at how narrow the Spanish market is in comparison to the Scottish market, it's hilarious. And so at some point people will, I think, go out of business or die trying at some level within gin. But no, I think the lower ABV sector is going to be quite an interesting.
That was where the next question is because that's the thing that astonishes me in Scotland, being grown up in Lanarkshire. I thought, buying beer or spirits with no alcohol in it, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
But it seems to be a thing. Is it going to continue to be a thing, and is it going to grow in the future, do you think so?
It is. I think the supply chain is maturing, and that's good to see because the consumers are first for lower ABV drinks, as well as more mindful drinking, more nutritious drinking, less sugar. So yeah, the supply chain is definitely catching up, and that's helping. It's just a bit more education needed, I think, for the consumer. But they're massively changing. So your big studies will suggest that young people aren't drinking like our fathers did. Destroy a couple of bottles of wine at lunchtime, go back to work. That doesn't happen anymore. That's for a variety of reasons. It's both cultural and social. The social entertainment sphere is wildly more diverse than it was when we were, our sort of, just caught the internet. My first email when I was 18. But that digital generation aren't, drinking as much. They're more mindful of what they drink, and they get their kicks in a variety of ways.
Yeah.
So for the publican, they need to. Or the restaurant too, and the cafe, we need to think out the box. So I think what we'll see is a diversity in terms of drinks. We might even see things that are spectrumized in terms of stimulants versus relaxants like CBD drinks, and so I think we'll see the identity of the pub and the cafe evolve and change and become a lot more colourful than it's historically been, or one-dimensional for that reason. Just trying to encourage a younger person out of their bedroom off of their iPhone into an actual physical social experience.
I've got one of the kind of people who spends his life on an iPhone. Jim, it makes me think that what's got to say there, and it's a good thing for all the guys in this room, hopefully a good thing for us, is it seems to be that everyone's moving towards less quantity and more quality across the spectrum, food and drinks. Maybe don't buy quite as much as you used to, but spend more on it and get better quality stuff. Customers getting more interested in ingredients and quality and provenance and all this really cool stuff that plays into your hands. Is that what you're finding when you're actually asking the questions?
Absolutely, both in food and drink. I mean, there is much more of a general interest in looking at the label and seeing what's in this, what are the different ingredients here, and people are actually paying attention to that now, and also regulations around labelling and so on has made that easier for people to be able to track that as well. And when it comes to drink, exactly the same thing. I mean, the minimum unit pricing is obviously an issue in Scotland that I know that often creates different views and opinions, if you like, but that is also helping to drive up, if you like, the price. But linked with quality, less of the stuff at the bottom. People are drinking less, but they're spending just as much on it.
Okay. Bruce, another tricky one for you. Veganism.
Yeah.
You mentioned, is it veganism? I've been calling it veganism forever, but I've heard a few veganisms today. Is it veganism or veganism?
I got veganism, but there we go.
Right, okay. Veganism. How long is that going to last? And is that potentially here forever?
I don't think this is a fad. I don't think this is just a trend. I think this is an ongoing trend. I think the stats that we saw today were really interesting, that 4% of people are actual vegans, but some of the research I've looked at is they're saying just about 90% are flexitarian, and I think that's the way forward. People are choosing to have meat-free days, people are choosing to have plant-based days, and it's all because of health, it's about well-being, and it's about changing your diet. So I think it's definitely something that's here to stay. And we'll be sitting here in 10 years' time and it will be developed even further.
Yeah, okay. Right. You guys, have you got any questions to anyone on the panel? Well, start with give us number 52 then.
Well, you mentioned about getting listings and you get about 25 products. You get about 25 products and you put your day. So is it, and I know you said, not just an email, you're ruthless, but how, okay, we're going to send it to you, but how ruthless should we be to the point where you don't say, I'm not even going anywhere near her because she's eating too much, and do we literally send that product in with our kit?
I think what you do is you do your homework and you find out who the buyer is, you find out exactly who you need to speak to. Of course you send an email and then you follow up with a call. I've always said, if one of my buyers did not respond, I'd want to know about it. Because you never know, you could be on to the next thing. So I would be tenacious about it. There gets to a stage where if you've done 20 phone calls, nobody's coming back to you, you've got to ask the question. But nobody should treat you like that. But you need to be a bit dogmatic about it. If you really believe in your product and you think it's the right thing, my view would be keep knocking on that door and ringing that phone.
Can I just add?
Yeah, of course.
I would say too, you really do need to do your homework. I have heard buyers tell me that focus that in front of them and said you should be smoking my product, and they already are through their distributor, and they hadn't done their homework, they hadn't been in the store, they hadn't looked. I've also heard from the little buyer that people will tell them that they love their local Aldi store because they haven't realised the difference between the two of them. Just really do know and genuine reasons why your product should be stocked, not because your mum said it's good. Know your pricing, understand it. I had an email from somebody this morning and she listed 9 different retailers that she thought were her target. And I'm saying to her, she's a small producer, I'm saying, can you afford to do the marketing for all 9 of those retailers? Can you genuinely say that a product that you think is right for the premium end is also definitely right for the lowest end? Which of those 9 is your best first chance? Focus on that, learn everything you can about them, look at what they've got, understand what is genuinely different about your product, Because otherwise the buyer's question will be, how much more cheaply can you sell me it than the one I've got? And if you're up against a Procter & Gamble or a Unilever or a big company with a big marketing spend, there has to be a genuine reason for somebody to want to stock your product other than that you think they should. So, you have to, it is difficult because you're so personally involved in it, but you do have to be very honest with yourself about it too. And if you do all that prep, you will get a call back from the buyer because they'll realise that you've done that work and that you're worth a look.
And I said it earlier, know where it fits in with the rest of the range in that store and when it fits in with the rest of the range. That's really, really important. And why is your product better? Or where are you targeting that product? So you would say, the reason I'm coming to you is you are missing a trick here because you do not have an X, Y, or Z.
Another question?
Hi, good morning everyone. I'm Praveen Kumar. I'm from Perth. We put with authentic Indian meals for the whole UK for online. But also, we started delivering, supplying to the farm shops and delicacies. So it's 4 months old, and genuinely our customer online. This month is great. Now the question for you as the leaders in there, we also operate online and also in store. What kind of thinking you have when you see a product is 2 different sales lines? How would you, say if I come to you and say, right, this is my product, other than store, or also online as well. Price market, pretty much 10% here and there, but very much in line with the price, what are you selling, what do you sell online as well. What kind of thinking you would have that part of both the company or the product?
I suppose the best example of that recently in the last 3 or 4 years has been Grace. Grace started off as online. It wasn't available in the shops. It was only available online, and my wife subscribes to it and gets her Grace box and what have you, so it comes every week or whatever. The dog gets a Woof box, but I won't go into that. It's something completely different. But the point was, Grace managed to get a wee bit froth on the marketplace. They grew their brand. They made themselves established, and they did a lot of work behind it. They're online, and in fact, they could still, if you phone up, they'll still send you a box free of charge and let you try it and what have you. From a retail point of view, we saw that trend and we saw, well, actually, this is something slightly different. It pushed the price point again higher than we would normally do things with a snack or what have you in a convenience environment. But it was something that we wanted to get the hold of because it allows the customers don't know really what there's a stat somewhere that says 95% of us don't know what we're going to have for our tea tonight. They don't know what they're going to purchase when they walk into the store. So by having that product, by having the recognition, suddenly Grace has grown into the retail environment. So that was almost the reverse of where you are. So like with your meals, same thing would apply. If you grew your brand and it's something that is actually, that's something really different. It's got a lot of accreditation, it's got a lot of awards, it's been talked up in the magazines, it's been talked up, you've got your taste award, whatever, then I would be really quite interested in print stock of your product, especially when you're in Perth and all of 15 miles away from us. So that makes it easier for you to bring in. So actually, there are 2 marketplaces, and I suppose within all of this, we've not really talked about this, but there is a sort of merging of channels. We call it Grossman, we call it, it's food to go, and you can't go in as a shop, and a cafe, when does a cafe become a shop, when what's online, what's not online. Recent trip to China, you can go and buy a product in a store, you can get it delivered, you can get it made in a store, you can eat it in the store, you can get it sent whole hot to you, you can go and choose your ingredients and the chef will cook it and we'll send it in a wee electric bike in a store. So it's how we all work together to make that there, and I think we've got to be aware of how that's working. So we're aware of the channels are changing. It isn't just traditional bricks and mortar retailing, it's across the board. We've just got to help you with that journey.
Thanks for that, that's very helpful.
You mentioned the awards there. This is obviously a personal question, just happened to be asking in front of everybody else. When a product comes in with an award on it, not just anybody's award, does that influence your decision?
Having just been at the Pie Awards last year, and yes, I am the man that's eaten all the pies. three of our bakers have won awards. Well, this weekend, guess what? I'm going to be focusing on all of the shops in these localities. So the Brownings, the bakers, won Best Apple Pie. They actually won Best Vegan New Savoury Product. I can put that savoury product across every single store, marked up, this has won the award, this has won the gold, this has won the Diamond Award. The Diamond Award is the best one. And we'll leverage that again to say, look, this isn't just any vegan sausage. These Greg's steak, Greg's vegan bake, you know. So we'll eat that, and we can have the best pie. So yes, the award is quite an important thing. It just gives you a bit of credence, a bit of, you know, somebody else thought this was a great product. So,
Yeah, Bruce, did that ever?
I would totally agree with you. You know, it's gone through, for a product to get an award, it's not just one person saying it's an amazing product. It goes through a number of palettes and a number of people. So actually, it's got to be a great product to get something put on it. And then you can see, we heard it earlier, you know, gentlemen in Belfast last week. It is unbelievable how a product will change when it's got an award with the consumer. Because it's on a shelf along with 15 different other products, and actually you're there saying, okay, I'm going to make an investment in some product, and that doesn't matter if it's a bottle of gin or a jar of jam. If you see that something's got an award on it, your eye will go directly to that, and that will help you make the consumer make a decision.
Yeah. Does that happen in the drink side as well, Scott? Do the drinks guys consider the WSC and stuff? Is that considered to be?
Yeah, there's a number of ones in San Francisco, London. It does, you know, some of these have got a lot of integrity, great judging, but you know, some of them are internationally recognised. It does, yeah, absolutely reflect signposts to the consumer. Letting know there's a bit of quality there for sure. As long as they're not running their own awards. Just do the most award wrong as awarded by them. Exactly, yeah, correct.
Okay. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
Just one question here for the panel. So say you're a small supplier and you get your appointment with Indonesia Multiples, and you're just going to use Tesco here. And they're as nervous as anything going into this first meeting, the big buyer and small supplier, and all of a sudden this buyer starts throwing acronyms at them, like, you know, what's your above the line, what's your below the line, what's LTAs, what's your margins and all this here. How do you think those suppliers should handle that, and what advice could you give them? Because they could walk out of that store and lose their shirts by agreeing to everything, going, I have no clue what he's just said, or she, and all of a sudden they're just far too nervous to sit in the meeting and go, I have no idea what you're saying, speak English.
I would say if you think you're going to be too nervous to go on your own, take someone else with you. Make sure you are prepped, make sure you do know your numbers. They are going to ask you those numbers for sure. So make sure you do have a run through with somebody who will really push you, you know, and as Bruce said too, remember that it is a partnership, and those buyers do want products, and remember in your own head what the smallest amount you can afford to sell your product for is. And I mean, there was a bad example last year about a chai drink on Dragon's Den, and when they were pushed for their figures, they admitted that Sainsbury's were taking it from them for less than they were making it for, which I didn't actually think reflected well on anyone in that situation. Do you know what? It's not sustainable, it's not good practice for anybody. But, you know, just remember it is a partnership. Go in well prepped, don't wind the buyer up by not knowing what they need you to know, but don't get freaked either. They are just people, most of them.
Very simple. Don't walk into a Tesco buying department with an Asda carrier bag and you've got, or vice versa. I mean, you're all laughing, but actually the amount of times that happens, and all it does is just send a negative message straight away to the buyer, because what that says is you haven't done your homework, you haven't researched it, you haven't worked it through. So I know it sounds simple, but the amount of times that I've been presented products in a competitor's bag just doesn't. Have you visited the store? No, I haven't visited your store. Have you been in their stores? No, I haven't been in your stores. Do your homework, make sure it's right. The final part, and I agree with everything the guys have said, is that I had an old boss who used to say quite openly to the supplier, are you making money from me? And the supplier would start, what will we see here, what will we see here? Now, it was a legitimate question. What old Mr. Sands was saying, there was a tough old cookie and got the best deals. if you don't make money from me, you're not going to be here next year. And if you're not going to be here next year, I'm not going to waste my time listening to you and going through everything else. So actually, you need to know that you're going to make money from me, but I'm going to push you for the best possible deal. So it comes down to that partnership route. You know, what are the boundaries? So just bear that in mind. If you're not making money, you won't be here next year. So you know, two simple things. Make sure you've got the right carrier bag, and make sure you need money.
Okay, that John. Right, that it's been a very long session this morning, but hopefully you found it useful and got some helpful stuff out of that. And if you still want to talk about the awards, we'll be over on Q 43. I'll remember that so long. But thanks for your time, really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.